Thank you for staying with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast, and African history may not be complete without talking about some committed individuals who dedicated their lives to advocating for the development of the continent. Dele Giwa was one of such individuals, a journalist whose commitments to African progress was sadly cut short when he received a parcel bomb in his house at Ikeja here in Lagos State. And his death dominated the news as he had been accused of plotting a socialist revolution in Nigeria. 37 years after, the question remains whether there's been significant improvement in the country's democracy and the freedom of speech. And joining us now in the studio is a public affairs analyst. He's also a PR consultant, Deyemi Saka. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Welcome. Welcome to the program. And year after year, in fact, even before October the 19th, somehow, the name Dele Giwa always seeps into conversations, especially where journalists are concerned, when journalists compare the ideals or the exploits then and now. But on a day like this, 37 years after the untimely death of Dele Giwa, what runs through your mind?
Well, there's a popular televangelist which I follow. Oftentimes I disagree with his positions on national issues. But there was a time I'm probably a faithful believer in what he says, or his program, his telecast. And there was an edition, that's Tunde Bakare.
Right.
It says, nothing can be hidden except only what God's hide. And he said, at any point in time, the truth shall be revealed. And one of the instances he mentioned was Dele Giwa's death. It's just a matter of time we will know who killed Dele Giwa. I remember then in 1986 when the news broke, my mom came to the living room. It was an emotional wreck. You will probably imagine Dele Giwa was a relative. That was how emotional Nigerians were about his death. And growing up, we all ran with the story that Dele Giwa died from injuries sustained because of an explosion coming from a parcel bomb. I ran with that as well. But when I started digging up and reading, because I started as a journalist, freelance journalist, before I became a PR consultant, public affairs analyst, I stumbled on some things that doesn't add up. And I'm not trying to come here to tell Nigerians that they don't know what they've been saying for over the years, but I'm bold to say that Dele Giwa did not die from a parcel bomb. He died from an explosion. Nobody can dispute that. That is not for any debate. But Dele Giwa did not die from explosion from a parcel bomb. And the facts are there. You probably will, yes, thank God there was an eyewitness. And the eyewitness account of what happened is consistent with letter bomb crisis or incidents.
So the letter bomb narrative came from the
eyewitness account. There was no
there.
investigation, there was no forensic analysis that puts it to Nigerians that Dele Giwa died from letter bomb or receiving letter bomb. There was an account that the letter was brought in by his son, Billy. Yeah. So that means that was given to the son. Was given to the son. To deliver to the dad. To the dad.
But that will put the records.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's like this. That one has ruled out that the letter is motion sensory. If there was a bomb in it, moving the package and they probably will not detonate. And the eyewitness account stated that when Dele Giwa, unquote, received the package, he leaned back. He said, this must be from the president. He held it with his left hand and tore it, and there was an explosion. Typical of what will happen in the letter bomb. But I want Nigerians to please receive this with an open mind. There is no victim of letter bomb that his hands are spared. And if you probably want to dig up the photos of, Dele Giwa's residence after the explosion, you see that the explosion had this combustive energy that was strong enough to mangle the burglary proof. From the eyewitness accounts, it blew up the mahogany table in front of them. And you ask yourself, what happened to the first part of the body that's the detonator or that triggered the explosion? If probably it's gory, we can't give it to the public to see. But if you dig up Dele Giwa's photo, you probably see that his right hand, which happens to be the hand that tore the package, is intact. There's a South African Reverend Michael Lapsley, one of the few survivors of Pasu bomb. If you check his images on the internet, you will find that he has prosthetic arms, consistent with injuries from letter bomb or what you could call Pasu bomb. The arms are not there. It's using prosthetic arms. He lost an eye. So it's the painful thing for me, and the only regret I have here is someone like Chief Late Gani Fahimi is no more. He was one man that passionately wanted the Dele Giwa family to get closure and justice, but it's not there. And if Nigerians could wake up, or we all agreed that Dele Giwa died from a Pasu bomb, but what we're seeing right now is inconsistent with explosion from Pasu bomb or letter bomb. I think there's a need for us to either call the eyewitness, recall him to help us with a better recollection, or maybe he missed something to help Nigerians, to help Dele Giwa family to get closure. Right. And as we're saying this...
But what aided you? So sorry, please hold that thought. You will definitely, we have time, so to speak. But on this theory that you bring, it's well, when you look, and you've said so, that when you look at what several other persons are saying, this is like a lone voice, so to speak, in well, I call it the wilderness. This is an interesting theory because it is new, so to speak. Though I saw that, you know, about a year ago, you also spoke about this. You alluded to this theory that if indeed it was a Pasu bomb, then why was his hand intact as against the lower part of his body that was largely mangled from that? But this, I reckon that, you know, science would aid your theory or your belief, and I want you to, you know, tell Nigerians, tell the world indeed, how you got to arrive at this. What evidence? What evidence? No, really, did you even get? Before we get to your motive, what evidence did you use to back up your claims?
Yeah, it's simple. I have a science background. I studied. I was at some point in University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, studying mathematical sciences. I did a bit of physics in secondary school. And we're told in science that you should base things with facts, you should question things before you come up with a theory. And it's before doing this, I probably will not lie to you. I've interacted with some key figures that have been either accused of being involved in Dele Giwa's death or murder, if you want to put it that way. And I grew up with this sentiment. I heard this side of the story, and it brought, okay, fine, go on a research. And I can speak to you authoritatively that being in consistency with victims or survivor or incident that has to do with Pasu bomb, letter bomb, there is a massive injury or death resulting from, because injuries to the arms, hands, face, and chest. And that is lacking in Dele Giwa's corpse. If you probably check it out, dig it up. The Dele Giwa case is not consistent with what science has proven about Pasu bomb or letter bomb.
Could it be where he held a Pasu bomb? Maybe it could be a front or a back, because when they said it was given to him, it's swollen. It has a swollen, you know,
it was a
shape.
Swollen Pasu,
exactly,
right?
You know, as against what will contain ordinary letter.
Right.
So, and then with a seal that showed that, oh, this must have come from the president. And the eyewitness said that he was sitting just like you're sitting on the other side, and because of the mahogany table and the thickness of it, you know, did not
deflected it.
But then he lost his hearing for at least a couple of, about 5 years or thereabouts. So have you tried, could it be that the way he held the letter, because those who have survived letter bomb, or those who have been killed via that medium, could it be that the way they held it was separate? Maybe it tore it from below, or the way it was, you know, I'm just thinking.
But let's say I'm happy, and if you probably, I'm sticking this, and what made me go this route was sticking to the consistent testimony of the eyewitness. He said he held it up, he tore it from the top, from left to the right.
Okay.
If people as we speak can probably do themselves a favor, dig up the photo of Dele Giwa's residence after the explosion. You saw that, you will probably find out that the burglary proof was extended and there was a crack on the wall, on the base of the burglary proof. Now, it's commonsensical. If that explosion has such impact to affect things some few meters away, what would happen to the hand that held the package? You probably hold your phone, it explodes. We know what happens to the palm. There's something we call firecracker, we popularly call banger. It goes off in your hand. You know what happens to your palm. Now, imagine an explosion of such magnitude. If you want to believe it bypassed his body and probably fell on his lap, but the hand that held it, the impact, the hands will not survive.
The first contact.
The first contact, because in consistency.
But one of the hands was mutilated.
No.
The two hands.
The two hands were. If you
intact.
probably go up, you probably will see it.
No, but your report, expressly stated the right hand or one hand.
Yeah, the right hand that tore the letter
intact.
was by his side. And the only thing you probably will see on Dele Giwa's face is a patch on the cheek.
Okay, so you say his face was also spared from major impact?
For major impact. And based on the fact that the man said he raised it up. I'm not coming up with this analysis. He said he raised it up. Based on the eyewitness account and that was why Nigerians ran with the suspicion or the guilt verdict of the government of the day. If I want to blame the government of the day, of General Ibrahim Babangida for anything, was not fishing out his killers, which I'll blame successive governments as well. But if for that, Nigerians should please start asking questions, and probably we need to call the eyewitness to please sit back and just tell Nigerians maybe he missed a thing or two.
But many would say the man still died. Their beloved Dele Giwa was assassinated.
Definitely.
And so I also want to ask you what breakthrough you hope to achieve from this latest claim, because the late Dele Giwa was quoted as saying moments after what happened, what many believed was, him being attacked by a bomb from a letter, was they got me. He was quoted as muttering, they got me. So what do you hope to achieve with this? How much of a breakthrough do you expect this to bring to the 37-year-old question as to who killed him?
Well, I'm probably hopeful. Nigerians will probably start asking more questions. I probably think if Nigeria sees this and accepts this as an opening, this is an opening that will help the Dele Giwa family to get closure and justice.
But then there's also another question about so if he didn't die from a letter bomb, how then did he die?
No, I said that from the set go that he died from an explosion. Okay. Medical terms will say he died from exagination, excessive loss of blood. So his limbs, because from what we read, from what we saw, images there, we can't share it public. His limbs were blown off, and it's a sad one for me as a Nigerian. And but there's this thing I want to call, with all sense of decency and respect to good journalists. There's this thing I call Dele Giwa enterprise. There are a lot of journalists hide under that Dele Giwa's death, like, okay, I want this, I'm being oppressed, there's freedom of them, I'm being stifled, the press is being stifled. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying there's this ongoing enterprise as well that we always want to keep this conversation going to make us believe that the government of the day, as of that time, killed Dele Giwa. And let me use this to jump into what probably would say my motive. Sometime last year, after this conversation, I was able to speak with General Tunde Togun, retired as a general. Then was the DG, the director of the DG DSS. We spoke and we compared notes, and he told me, said, you remember telling people that the eyewitness surviving the attack is probably one of the greatest miracles after the miraculous birth of Jesus. I'm not going to lie, I have a relationship with General Babangida at some point, and I remember asking him this question before I probably went researching, and I saw the pain in a man, feeling like, okay, and it was stunned for a while. And a few months, last year, after the sad incident, we sat down, and I could see the bits of relief and excitement in that at least somebody out there is giving me the benefit of the doubt. Not necessarily saying he wants to exonerate me. But if Nigerians or people want to allude or believe this is an attempt to exonerate him, and if the facts on ground I've said is consistent with what I've said, because you probably want to dig up O.J. Simpson case, where he was in court, his lawyer came up and brought the gloves and said he should wear it, the gloves didn't fit.
It should be acquitted.
And he said if the glove doesn't fit, it should be acquitted. Whether we like it or not, General Babangida is also a man that has wife and kids.
Right, but then
grandchildren.
if he was, because some of the questions people ask, if he was at the end of affairs then, and why didn't he constitute an investigative panel to look into this issue so that at the time when he was at the end of affairs, they would have put paid to insinuations and all of that. Remember, it wasn't only Dele Giwa that has been killed, politically assassinated.
Yes, right.
We've got Bola Ige, we've got Kudrat Abiola, and etc. And it's very difficult to even say this was the person responsible. So if you were at the end of affair, what did you do to ensure that the truth was laid bare?
And I think I'll probably say two things, and I said it earlier too, that was the only one thing I'll blame the government for not doing was not fishing out his killers. But I also want to say this. If we were deliberately or non-deliberately sent on a white goose chase, probably because if somebody could come out and tell me there was a parcel bomb and somewhere, what I'll be looking for as a forensic guy on the scene is looking for the parchment of it. I could see a parchment of any paper or something to go send to the lab to check for what kind of explosive or, the combination that formed the IED. And if that wasn't there, and if you probably would expect them we're going down a wrong route. But that's not an excuse. And I think with what I've just said now, I think with better information managers out there, with better, I think the forensic lab at Panti didn't start working effectively until the last 5, 6, 7 years. So maybe we could start asking questions or start looking at, or new leads, or probably see this as an alternative lead we should look at. Because if Nigerians should look up the internet and look for Michael Lapsley, what you will see, and that's one of the few survivors of letter bomb, his hands were blown off. He lost an eye. So this is not me making this defense argument up. This is something consistent with science. Projectile trajectory and combustion and what have you. And what we've believed that we've run with for 37 years is inconsistent with science.
Even the theory that even if it wasn't a letter bomb that led to Dele Giwa's death, it must be
There was definitely an explosive.
But then how would that even explain the fact that, his upper part was, was largely intact, his hand was largely intact, because, basically explosions are fatal either way. The corpses, are not whole, either way. But, even at that, I'm just saying that how would that even explain the fact that his arm was, or his hand was intact? If it had been an explosion, if it indeed is an explosion.
From a letter bomb.
Not from a letter bomb.
Yeah. So I think I've been able to get a convert, a disciple. In you.
No,
but I'm still asking. I'm still asking that the question will still be asked. Why a part of his body, his hand, is like one of the closest parts of his body. How that? I'm just saying that perhaps it could even still be a letter bomb.
No, you see.
But then we may not be able to foresee all the eventualities of holding a letter bomb.
Let's say this, and let's be clear. Dele Giwa died from injuries sustained from an explosive on his residence.
So that is
not up for any established. Yeah. But what I'm here to say, and which I'll keep saying at every opportunity I get, is that explosion, based on science and evidences and probably history of letter bomb, did not come from a letter bomb.
All right. So how far have you gone with this? Which quarters have you taken
Well,
this to?
I'm grateful for the platform giving me an opportunity to say this. You know, it's a good one, I guess. But I don't have the authority to command the police to initiate or reopen an investigation. I just know that probably Nigerians should probably start having a rethink or be open-minded about the conviction in public courts of some people. And I'll tell you this, I will say this for free. The government of the day then failed for not fishing out Dele Giwa's killers. And there was this story, and I have to say this, there was this story that Akilu, General Akilu, called Dele Giwa's residence to ask if he was at home, repeatedly called and everything.
Calling the wife. Right.
But let me put it, it was on record too, that Dele Giwa was being questioned. And Dele Giwa reported to her home, who was then to IC. In military unwritten code, if you report me to my boss, my superior, and my superior mediates in the matter, I'm meant to get back to you and tell that Oga has spoken to me, forget about it, I'm dropping it. Then secondly, Nigerians should know that Dele Giwa was not a trained spy. So if there was a need for the DSS or probably DMI to carry out such a hit on him, they probably would not need to call his resident. They probably have planted somebody on him. And Dele Giwa was not trained to know how to knock off a trail. And Dele Giwa would not know if he's under surveillance. And then the DSS was accused, or probably was even on record, that they were able to bug the telephone lines of one former ACP that Dele Giwa and Rehepo promised job and everything. So if such an establishment with such resources could bug, I don't think there would have been any for them to call Dele Giwa to know if he was at home.
There are too many questions, you know, begging for answers. But then, is it possible that because the family, on one side might be thinking, we'll need to put a closure to this matter,
yeah,
and another will feel, well, the deed has been done. Why don't you allow the late man to rest? So, is it possible that forensic experts or those who are meant to, dig deep into some of the questions you've been quizzing about, to exhume the body? Is it possible to? I'm not sure whether that's...
no, it's possible. It's possible.
In terms of a cold trail,
no, we could. If we have the resources, we could do that, but I doubt if that's possible. But for me, I think 2-3 things are begging here. At least I'm pleading as well to the eyewitness to please come forward if you can just come with a better recollection. Maybe there was something in Mr. that can probably help Nigerians, driving us closer to the truth. I also want Nigerians to just be open-minded. If, and I'll say this, if anybody sees an attempt to exonerate IBB because of personal relationship with him, I'm not responsible for what you believe, but I'm responsible for sticking with the truth and what the truth tends to achieve.
What you believe.
What I believe. And I would say this, like I said, this is an old man with children and grandchildren. We've done something for 37 years. His grandchildren one day will get on the internet and probably see their father being accused of killing somebody. And now this fact on ground is inconsistent with the guilty verdict we've passed on this man. Let Nigerians as a whole demand for probably new vista, new openings, truth, better truth to resolve this.
And it's also good for the man in question to also speak as long as he is alive.
It would not, because as a commander, I've oftentimes tried to ask him to say some things about some issues, and I don't know. I think that's the burden of leadership in their own way. I don't think I have that luxury of patience or taking the bullets or that. I probably would have said a lot of things if I was in his shoes, but I didn't go to NDA, so I don't know how they are wired.
Right.
And I was never a general of the troop.
But on this issue, with all the allegations and the accusations, which the former Nigerian leader has also, he knows about, he was quoted earlier in the year as, granting a much publicized interview where the questions were put across to him as to his possible involvement in the killing of the late Dele Giwa, and he said this is a man that we were friends, we were close, we were close, and okay, but then not many people will remember that. What many people know is the allegation that I could have had a hand in his killing. But, like Ibrahim has said, there does appear to be some form, if he could open himself up. I don't know what advice you can give or you've given in that wise.
No,
yes, he's a military person by training, but how much of has he done his own part by saying what he said?
I think
there more he can do.
And this is maybe more this. I think with this and with him saying that there's somebody that passionately believes that things were not as it were portrayed, maybe that will make him say one or two things in future, maybe very soon. I can't guarantee if I can make that happen.
Just like no one can guarantee what's to come in the future.
But I believe someday.
Now is all we have.
No, but I believe someday, very soon, at least he has something to build up, to build a story on. It will speak to us someday.
Yeah, we won't let you go without, talking about, the good days of Dele Giwa,
did well.
Renowned investigative journalist and all of that. Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution guaranteed freedom of the press, freedom to hold opinion, freedom of the press, really. What would you say the death, which shocked the nation in 1986, what it has impacted the investigative journalists or journalism, and the impact it has had, endured over the years?
It's a double-edged sword. It gets some people more daring, to just want to be like Dele Giwa, and it made a lot of people turn out to be chicken or cowards. So it's we gained some, we lost some, but in whole, our press has evolved, journalism has evolved, and the beauty of it is we have a lot of accidental journalists, if I can use that word. With a smartphone and a data bundle, you probably could pick up a story and nobody can censor it. It's up there, it's out there in the public. It's not for you to defend it or build on it and flesh it, like we say in the media. So it's out there. The space is not as toxic or restrained like it was way back, because now have political actors and leaders now heavily investing in media. So I don't necessarily need to come at you with the instruments of the state. I just need to just prevail on my colleague or my former colleague or a friend. Please, tell your media outfit to please tone down everything. So it makes it's a bit safer for journalists now than. I think the only problem journalists are having right now is, and I will say this I don't say it to my chest, I don't care how they feel about it. It's just the harassment from the police. Those guys, I don't know, they need to train, and we train them how to interact with the public, with the civil populace, and especially the press. They get agitated for no reason when they just say the tag press.
And through the eyes of a journalist, of course, you have a journalistic background, and when you look at the essence of Dele Giwa, what fascinates me, what fascinates me is the fact that this is a man who earned his name, died at the age of 39.
Yeah.
He earned his name, speaking truth to power. He also had some form of access, that powerful people in government. He spoke about earlier about how he called, Mr. Togo, the General Togo, and asked him, "You've been calling my wife and all that." He called him. He asked him, "Why are you calling? Why are you asking my wife for my whereabouts and all that?" The IBB is also quoted as saying that they were friends and all that. Yet that didn't stop him. I mean, Mr. Giwa, from being killed, from being targeted, from being killed, even though he spoke truth to power constantly, and he always put government on their toes. There was a reason for him to be silenced, but now years after, the name still rings strong, and he can't be silenced even in death.
No, it can't be silenced in death. And I must say this: Dele Giwa was a powerful dresser. It was a fine man, and it was a great loss to the society. It took a lot on our values, and if the glamour could have sustained in journalism. But I pray and hope someday Dele Giwa's the conversation will keep going, but we probably will be saying we found the killers or the way hard. But for me, I just want Nigerians just to believe that, and I'm saying this, my own assertion, my own conviction, my own analysis, which is consistent with parcel bomb, letter bomb. Dele Giwa never died from a parcel bomb. and nobody sent a package.
He died of explosion.
He died from an explosion at his residence. And medical terms, science will tell you he died from exagination, excessive loss of blood.
All right. Public Affairs Analyst, PR Consultant, Deyemi Saka, thanks for your contribution.
Nice for having me and giving me
on
the platform.
this on this issue, because of course it gives us a new perspective, a new vista, a new perspective to, and opens our eyes to, possibilities, which I can say that you're holding there to your heart, and we hope that you will run further with this, and it will get us somewhere.
The IGP of police.
And it will get us somewhere.
Against the Police Act, if I'm made the IGP.
Most importantly, for the family to achieve
closure.
closure. Deyemi Saka, we thank you once again for speaking with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.